Welcome back. It's primary night, and let's be honest, usually in these things, they're yawners that blow out with already the foregone conclusions, but not so much tonight, especially not in the 13th district where you've got an institution. That's the only way you can refer to Charlie Rangel here, seemingly, basically that's his district. Well, the district has changed here. He's found a very tough competitor 2 years ago who's back again. And the question is, what happens tonight? Let's bring back Dominic Carter, who is in the 13th district with us right now. In fact, just finishing up for an event that Congressman Charlie Rangel was at. Dom?
Well, Richard, we can tell you that we are here at Tracy Towers in the Bronx. It's a very popular residential building for middle-class residents, and Mr. Rangel literally left here just minutes ago. Now, I was listening to the conversation and watching it that you gentlemen just had in the studio, and Andrew Whitman made a good point. I believe it was Andrew that made the point of when it comes to Adriano Espaillat, is his base going to turn out? Is he ready to take the championship, if you will, away from Congressman Rangel? And I have to tell you, Richard, our team have spent the entire day between the district, the growing district here in the Bronx, and also in Harlem, and all you see are Rangel get out the vote operations, from the signs, from people passing out things and so on. There is a lot of Rangel enthusiasm out here tonight, and we are just not finding it as much for Mr. Espaillat. That doesn't mean that Mr. Espaillat may lose tonight. We're just saying that when it comes to get out the vote, we're not seeing it. We spoke to Congressman Rangel and to the public advocate of New York City, Letitia James, just minutes ago. Congressman, okay. The polls are only open for about another 2.5 hours. Your last time on the ballot, how do you feel?
I haven't thought about that. I've been talking about getting out the vote, saying how important this is, thanking $11.99, and doing all of the things that you're supposed to be doing. But anything about last time, forget it. This is it. This is exciting, and I can't think of anything that I wanted to do that we didn't do. Okay.
Right. So you feel good tonight?
I feel exceptionally well tonight.
Why not Adriano Espaillat?
Oh, it's not a question of either or. It's just really the experience, and I think experience matters, and that's why I'm supporting Charlie Rangel.
Richard, Mr. Rangel has a lot of support out here. The big question tonight, can Mr. Espaillat close in the final days to become the first Dominican American ever elected to Congress? He would make history if that does happen, but Rangel says, wait a minute, it's not going to happen on my watch. Now, a sign that Mr. Rangel, Richard, has been in office for a very long time, if you will, since 1970, when he walked up here at Tracy Towers in the Bronx to speak to the residents that are fighting high prices and so on, he didn't refer to it as Tracy Towers. He called it something else, which is where his victory party will be tonight. But we'll see what will happen, Richard. Let's go back to you.
Hey, Dominic, Jonathan talked about this before. The Espaillat camp has already talked there could be some voting irregularities. It's very possible we won't know, or at least we won't get a concession at the end of tonight, maybe even tomorrow. What are you hearing and seeing? I mean, you know this. You've covered more than a few races in this district before. There's a lot of street folks who can be active on primary day. Tell us what you're seeing and hearing.
Well, Richard, let me just say this. The background noise that you may hear, I know you know, Richard, and Andrew knows, but for our audience, this is the legendary 4 train above my head here, which obviously goes down Jerome Avenue in the Bronx and over to Yankee Stadium. The irregularities that you mentioned, Richard, we heard that 2 years ago. We've been hearing that all day today. We will see what will happen. Remember, this was a race where it took some time for a concession, so we don't know, a point that Ozzy Pebera, the journalist, made to us earlier. Richard, we don't know when this race is going to be called. But I have to tell you, on Election Day, we know the district has been redrawn. We know the district is predominantly Latino now. But on Election Day, as a journalist, you can get a good flavor of where things stand. And based on that one sole barometer, it appears to be Rangel and Rangel all the way. But we'll see, Richard.
You got it, Dominic. Thank you so much. And it should be noted, it's not just Harlem. It's got some interesting races, a handful of other competitive races going on right now, and including out on the island where, Michael, we've seen some stuff in Suffolk County, some pretty nasty ads with Mr. Zeldin and his opponent. What do you think is going to happen there?
So Lee Zeldin is a young guy, state senator, who I think first came to office in 2010, breeding Brian Foley, I think it was, whose father was in office, and Brian was in office for many years, a family institution, a civic institution. Lee Zeldin came to office and immediately set his sights on Congress. George Demos, I think is his opponent's name, was a federal prosecutor who went after bad banks and Ponzi scheme folks, and I think he was on the Madoff prosecution team, sort of tapping into that anti-corporate, populist vein that has been taking over so much of the conversation, Republican primaries. I don't know that Eastern Long Island, I don't know that Suffolk County is fertile ground for that Tea Party populist anti-corporate rhetoric. And Lee Zeldin has a set of accomplishments being in the Senate Republican majority, or I should say coalition majority in the state Senate. My guess is Zeldin takes it. Demos has a lot more money, but Zeldin is a bit more popular and is able to say, I've done X, Y, Z. Demos is able to turn around and say, yes, that's a liability because you're part of the problem.
Do you think Zeldin is better positioned for the fall against Tim Bishop? The NRCC, the group that gets Republicans elected to Congress, once again has identified this district as one of the more poachable ones. They still think that Tim Bishop is vulnerable.
They thought also was going to win a couple times. It never happened.
They did. Demos is probably better positioned to win in a general, but Zeldin, just because he has more money. I think he loaned himself $2 million, and that's not the kind of money Zeldin has access to right now. But Zeldin will probably win tonight because the Suffolk County Republicans are supporting him.
Well, let's say on the island in Nassau County, where both parties have primaries for the seat being held by outgoing retiring Congresswoman Carolyn McCarthy. Democratic side, you got the Nassau DA Kathleen Rice. She's going to actually, she's taking on right now the Democratic leader in the Nassau legislature, Kevin Abrahams. Rice wins, right?
Yeah, Rice wins. It'll be interesting to see if she breaks 75%. She's popular. She won in 2009 when Republicans did well in Nassau. She won in 2013, last year for re-election when Republicans did well. She has a lot more money. She's got name recognition. She ran for state attorney general and lost in 2010 to Eric Schneiderman. Yeah, I mean, she'll win. It's a Democratic seat now, even more Democratic since redistricting happened in 2012. Yeah, I think she'll win, see if she breaks 75%, and come the general, you're looking at 62% of the vote for her.
In the Republican primary in that race, there's a name we haven't heard for a couple of years, Bruce Blakeman, who was one of the candidates up against Kirsten Gillibrand 4 years ago. I sense that he's probably in the driver's seat to win the Republican primary there against Frank Scatoro.
Right.
But it should be a Democratic-leaning district.
Yeah, it's a Democratic-leaning district, no question.
Especially
it's gotten
in
more.
recent years,
yeah,
right?
It's gotten more Democratic.
I think for the right Democratic candidate, and that's probably Kathleen. But communities of color in Nassau County, whether it's Haitian, West Indian, or African American, are becoming a real force in North Hempstead politics, and they've flipped a couple seats in the county legislature. But Kathleen will probably win tonight.
Andrew, you go up to the Valley, and it's funny how New York has changed. The Hudson Valley has had 2 or 3 districts here that are very competitive, and we've seen the seat flip a few times. And you've got one right now in Sean Patrick Maloney's district where familiar faces run against him, but there's also an independent candidate in the mix as well.
Well, this seat has flipped 3 times in 3 consecutive elections, and this is a rematch of 2012. Sean Patrick Maloney defeated Nan Hayworth 2 years ago. Tonight is a primary on the Independence Party line, so let's just work this out. The Democratic incumbent, who's also on the Working Families Party, is up against the Republican nominee, who's also on the conservative line, for the Independence line. I don't think you can read anything into what's going to happen in November from the results of today. To my mind, this is just a measure of how
well-oiled the campaign is.
And how silly the Independence Party line can be in a spot like this. But
the one thing, and I'm sure this is exactly what Jonathan was about to say, is the Hasidic communities that fall within this congressional district are mostly supporting the Democratic incumbent, which, given his outspoken position on LGBT issues, and I think it was a big coverage, he just married his partner in the past couple days. So you have Hasidic communities backing the gay candidate over the female Republicans. So it's all sorts of messy, and it's getting really nasty.
This is tough, though. Talk about the mechanics of campaigns. Doing an election and doing an Independence Party primary, a third-party primary election where 3,000 people might come out to vote.
Right.
And where are these people? They're all across this massive, several county district.
Who are these
it
people?
It is not easy.
Can you say, I get that, but to my end, I don't know what the Independence Party stands for at all. Like, sometimes you find the most conservative guy who's getting the line. Then you got we saw this with Governor Cuomo even to a certain degree.
Maybe
these
a lot
people
of people
doing
thought they
these
were registering as not affiliated with any other party, and they clicked the wrong.
That's exactly what it is.
Is there an advantage, though, because the winner of this primary tonight will be on the ballot 3 times in November. The loser will be on twice. Does that
it
make
really
a difference?
make a difference?
It does. It does. Several thousand votes could swing the election, no question. And you have Cuomo, who's got the independence line as well, so there's down effects.
I'm sorry.
Some people won't vote.
Who do you know?
Some people won't vote on the Democratic line.
I'm not going to vote for Cuomo because he's a Democrat, but I'll vote for him because he's on the independent line.
There are people. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a party if they weren't. I mean, there's got to be. There are people that do it. They won't vote. They won't get D.
Historically, Republicans loved having the liberal line because those because it wasn't liberal in the sense of progressive. It was liberal in the sense of a sort of spirit of a role of government.
You're going on a paragraph trying to explain this, and that's all I have to say. All right. Now, there is another big primary down south in Mississippi. You got 6-term Republican Senator Tad Cochran. He could be in big trouble against primary challenger Chris McDaniel, a Tea Party candidate. Cochran's got the backing of the GOP establishment groups. Whether that helps or not, we're going to find out, including the Chamber of Commerce. We're not talking about exactly a bleeding heart liberal here. Cochran's campaign's been encouraging Democrats and especially black voters to cross party lines to push him ahead in today's Republican primary. Wow.
Well, yeah, it's being presented as the lesser of two evils, almost just like that.
I don't suck as bad.
To Democrats and to black voters in Mississippi, and saying, yeah, you get this guy who's way out there to the Tea Party right, or there's Tad Cochran who you know and who's been serving the. I don't know how effective an argument that is, and I don't know if that's enough to save him. I mean, he could be in real trouble going into this tonight.
But I think if African-American voters help deliver the more moderate Republican back to the U.S. Senate,
more moderate.
God
Tad
bless.
Cochran is not moderate. That's my only.
But it's interesting because you have Washington Democrats who are watching this, saying, "Hey, let the Tea Party win this, and we might have a better shot come November." I don't think there is a shot, but that's what they're saying.
That's the difficulty because it's Mississippi.
Right.
The Republicans almost guaranteed to win, so you may as well pick them.
And all this happening in
more moderate
in the context of Eric Cantor having lost. So people are reading into this probably more than it needs to be.
Okay. When we come back here, this is interesting. I bang the drum all the time on climate change. It's a real issue for our generation, our time here. But there's a politics and a business part to it as well. When we come back, we're going to look at climate change in that prism here and why former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and others have come out with a report calling climate change risky business. Stay with us. We'll be right back.